in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity. Tomorrow never certain. What draws behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble from LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons will breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. Hey, I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. So we're continuing the conversation today. Continuing a conversation. Leroy, Joel, K Business Podcast, Aaron B. Continuing the conversation about generational wealth, about money in the community. We're talking about families and community. So therefore, you're going to need to procreate. You're going to need to bring someone else in. Ain't that right, Dr. Thunder? Until, the technology makes it such that, but I don't think it's, like even with the technology, right? Wouldn't you still want someone else there or maybe need someone else there to make it a generational thing for there to be balance? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that aspect, perhaps?
Yeah. Contrary to popular opinion about men not being needed for anything, men are actually needed. And contrary to the opinion that maybe women wouldn't be necessary, I think that maybe they actually are, because they actually offer, as men do, a balance for each other.
100%. Right? Indeed, 100%. So I was having a conversation, was it yesterday? Yesterday was Monday, right? My time is still all crossed because I am in Africa now for the next 3 months. But a conversation with Anastasia where we talked about the boredom of women being one of the ways in which the sexual selection moves evolution forward, right? They get bored and then they want things to change, and then we actually change things. And then, as a matter of fact, even in our personal lives, in my personal life, I know this to be the case that when you look back, you're like, you know what? That wasn't bad. That, in the beginning, I was like, crap, why I got to do this, right? But then you make the change that she suggested, right? And you're like, you know what? This actually is more comfortable. It is nicer in this cave rather than in the cardboard box under that tree, I guess maybe she had a point, that kind of a thing. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. And today, and by the way, I am your host. Dr. Thunder is the co-host over here on my channel, Ike Gamian. We talk about being better and doing better with a strong emphasis on doing. Now, this is a continuation of a conversation, right? Last time we talked about the kind of person, the kind of partner that you need to bring in order to continue this journey of generational wealth. You got to procreate. There's got to be a generation aspect to it. The children got to come in. The children got to be trained in a particular way. And the person that you bring in is not only going to help you get there, okay, or at least they don't hinder you from getting there with regards to the bag part. The bag part, we put it on you, gentlemen. All right, Falcon Black, that's on you. We're not talking about how you're going to get some business partner woman that's going to fund your business.
Absolutely not.
You know what I'm saying, Falcon Black? No, that's on you. But still, you're going to need, for this establishment to happen, you're going to at least need a marketing brand, okay? One of the analogies I used to like to use was like, as a man, if you on a particular kind of mission, you should treat your life like an employer treats their business, where you're like, okay, I have a role for a woman. I have to know what that role is. And it tends to do with the things that I'm not good at. right? And it tends to be the case that men are not good with marketing. By marketing, I mean branding. I mean, a single man looks a little sketchy, as he should, right? Because we know what we are. We might blow it all up, right? We might blow it all up for for Sparta or whatever, right? But when you're responsible, when they see a woman next to you and kids, they're like, okay, I'll invite him to the country club. I'll allow him into the little secrets of this, that, and the other. That's why in corporate America, for example, you get to it. There is a glass ceiling, if you will, for single men and that kind of thing, and it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you do a quick summary and then we'll kind of go into this, Dr. Thunder. Last time we started out with some easy pointers, right? Like avoid 304s, right? Avoid 304s for the obvious reasons, but also for the fact that we know how they tend to deal with their boredom. They have not dealt with their boredom in productive ways. It's one thing to be bored, and then you know what? I think I'm going to rearrange the furniture, and I'm going to knit a bunch of curtains, right? I'm going to do some embroidery. That's one way of handling your boredom. But a 304 handles her boredom in a different way, and it's a very non-productive way, and so on and so forth. So we did some basic stuff like that. But then we went into also the Proverbs 31 woman, which has to do with conscientiousness, industriousness, wisdom, which
Right.
has nothing to do with your PhD. And we completely dispelled the notion that, hey, because nobody, okay, Aaron B, you don't go to somebody and say, hey, they have a psychology degree. Oh, I see a diploma in their wall. They must be wise, industrious, productive, healthy people. Of course, come on. It has nothing to do with that. And you could, as I said, it could be somebody from the village with a basic high school education, and they could be
Yep.
wise, industrious, productive, savvy, and all that stuff, right? So Proverbs 31, we demonstrated that, and that she's no dummy. So this is not about going after a dummy, right? Proverbs 31 woman is no dummy. But after that, we went into the aspect of embracing the dream. Okay, she embraces the dream. And what is the dream? The dream is hustle. The dream is grind. The dream is sleepless nights. The dream is sweat and toil, heartache, okay, of all kinds, risks that you take, uncertainty. The dream is hard work. The dream has to be tied to what it takes to accomplish it. So if there's some kind of a woman that you see out there and she's always talking about her dreams, but then an opportunity comes up to get that client to chase that particular opportunity to go on the grind for this, oh, she wants to hike some crazy place, but she never wants to work out for, in order to get to be in shape to do this dream hike that she wants to do. Well, you're not going to get there with her. Okay, we're talking generational
Right.
wealth. It's going to be a long road. You're not going to get there with her. You want to avoid that kind as well. And then we went into something, other things that generally I would say have to do with not being spoiled, okay, and things that will bring you peace of mind. Now, so let's start, Dr. Thunder, on this aspect here of peace of mind, the mental health aspect, okay. How can we judge mental health clearly? Shout out to Kevin Samuels. He always brings up the fact that people need therapy. He talks
Yes.
about a whole community that needs therapy, right?
Right.
That I'm not sure about the. I think I have some pushback on that. But what do I know, right? But what is the importance of this mental health aspect in terms of, because we went into not being spoiled and then we went into the damsel in distress. You don't want a damsel in distress because all you're going to get is a distressed damsel. That's all you get. Okay, you decide to pick the puppy with the broken legs because you have some weird kink in you that likes to fix broken things. You like project women. All you're gonna get is a project to work on. You're not gonna get to the destination of what we're talking about, which is generational wealth and so on and so forth. Okay, you're not gonna get there by picking up a project. So mental health, Dr. Thunder, how does that play into this? And how can we judge if we can? How do we do this, sir?
Yeah. Mental health is, that's, it's one of those things where if your mind is not healthy, then it's not really possible for you to do anything that's not significantly hampered, clouded by, you know, by that fact. I mean, we're already stuck in here, as it were. And
Mm-hmm.
knowing yourself is one of the most difficult things to do. It's a lifelong process. And so, if in your own journey to try to learn more about yourself, uh, if the person that's closest to you is not capable of seeing you clearly, uh, they can't be of any assistance to assist in your knowledge of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
we rely on other people, right? Like, that's one of the benefits of community. It's a benefit of family. It's why actually going to church where there's actually other people around is of value, is because through those interactions, there's the potential of learning more about yourself. So if the person that's closest to you, that theoretically should know the most about you, cannot see you clearly because they're in their head, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's that's not gonna be a good deal. Besides the fact that you're going to be catering to that, and you're going to have to that's going to have to be a primary um,
Focus of yours,
focus.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand with the whole damsel in distress thing. Now you got a distressed damsel, and you've just picked a lifetime project rather than the project of getting that generational wealth and then pushing it forward. One of the markers, okay, because we all grow up and we develop. Um, there's some markers that I can give in terms of somebody that is not that has maybe anxiety and some depression, but doesn't use those words. But they say things like all their relationships in the past were toxic, for example,
Oh
right?
goodness.
They say that their relationship was abusive, for example, and you want to find out how long they were in that relationship, right? Okay, so you were in a 5 year relationship that was toxic. Let's grant that it was toxic. What were you doing there for 5 years, right? Now, chances are
Right.
it wasn't toxic because two layers deep into the questioning, you find out that I take Zoloft every night. I'm diagnosed with anxiety and depression. It's like, well, maybe it wasn't the other person. Maybe it wasn't the relationship. Maybe it was you. But I don't know. Did you want to jump in there to say something?
Yeah. Isuba, um, domestic Duracell. Um, yeah. A shout out to Donovan Sharp. Anyhow, uh, any, anyhow, yeah. I mean, folks that uh, Donovan makes a really good point here, and now he's actually uh, even referring to uh, folks that have that claim past EPAR. Um, the thing is that if that actually did happen to someone, um, especially if they've done nothing, they've not gone to counseling, they,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they didn't go to the police, they didn't
Mm-hmm.
do any of the things. See, part of going to the police, uh, so that potentially you can face the person that did something to you. There's a therapeutic function of that. So if you haven't done that, all you did was, tell your friends, but
Mm-hmm.
you didn't do the next steps. Uh, that's an indication that that person is not. It's not. I mean, it's not going to be a good. I mean, it's just not going to be a good situation. And
Mm-hmm.
I have all of the compassion in for folks that have suffered and have
Mm-hmm.
been through things. So I'm not here to try to belittle that, but when it comes to building a legacy and picking uh, the right kind of person to be your match, someone that's going to be with you, hopefully for a lifetime, and be taking care of your kids while you're not watching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think you got to be cutthroat. I think you got to be like, well, sorry that
Mm-hmm.
happened, but that's kind of a it's kind of a red flag. I'm
It is a
I
red
mean,
flag, and
what
if
do you
you get
do?
the
What do you do?
if you get the urge to try to fix them, again, go back to that whole trying to get a broken puppy dog urge. We all
Right.
know what that feeling is. We all kind of want to do that thing, but don't do it. As a matter of fact, it is a sign of things that you have to work on. We can use certain platitudes to describe what you talk about, which is if they do not, let's say, report this abuse or some kind of a tragic relationship that they're in, if they don't go to the police, for example, or then they've not come to terms with the problem, whatever the problem may be. So the problem still resides in them somewhere, and they're hiding from it somehow, and it's not going to lead to good things. Okay, so I said, hey, somebody that's just always talking about their past relationships as, oh, the person was bad. We're talking about guys here. You're the one that's going to make that generational wealth. Whom are you going to bring in? What kind of a woman are you going to bring in? Proverbs 31 type woman. And if she's constantly talking about her exes being toxic, it is a sign. It's not the end of the world, but here's something that I ask. Okay, bring up the idea of therapy. Okay, see how they react to it. Okay, I think
Absolutely.
that that's a good one. Just bring
Yep.
up like, okay, I think therapy. If they go, oh no, I don't need therapy or something like that.
Or if they
I know it
flip
depends on
out.
how.
If they just like
Definitely, if
flip
they
out,
flip
like
out.
what are you trying to say? You think I'm damaged? You think there's something wrong with me? You know? You think uh you think you think I need help? Well,
We all need
if,
help.
if yeah, if it goes there, if it goes there, then you're done. Peace out.
100%. Because it's not going to work out again, because go out and check out the rest of the catalog of this show. We talk about how to actually get things done, how to overcome sloth, right? How, the value of hard work, sweat equity, so on and so forth. We talk about mastering yourself. All these things are very, very difficult, right? So if you're going to be doing these very difficult tasks, and then you're going to be in a relationship in of itself, which is a difficult thing to do, forget whether they're healthy or not, right? So you're going to be doing this difficult task. You're not just doing the regular relationship. You're not just going to live your regular life. You're trying to push yourself to the limit here. That's why I say you want generational wealth. So we mean that with what we're saying, okay? We mean what we're saying. We're saying, hey, you're going to push yourself to the limit, and also you're going to be in a relationship. Hence, you cannot be dealing with somebody that cannot take the accountability. I'm
That's
married.
fact.
My wife, for example, I actually did ask that question. I asked her about therapy, okay? And I saw how she responded to it. Now, you can't be an idiot. People are always defensive, isn't that right, Dr. Thunder? Right? So there is a normal defensiveness. Let's say, between 0 to 3. That's normal. Where someone's gonna be like, well, it's not just that I'm really, you get what I'm saying, right? People are going to be a little, they're going to want to self-preserve themselves a little bit. But like you said, if they flip out, right, then it's kind of crazy. Another kind of legitimate answer could be a very well reasoned, dissertation on psychoanalysis and why they have their particular way of, their ways of knowing if someone who is actually working on themselves and whom has not just themselves, but maybe they're part of some kind of a group, a community, which is important as you mentioned, right? But what I just mentioned right now, that's like 1% of the population that can tell you why,
Yep.
this particular kind of therapy is not for them, and then they do this, that, and the other. You'll be able to clearly see. So, mental health, anxiety, and depression is something that is rampant in the West. Taking wine and Paxil or Zoloft or Xanax or popping a bar, as they call it these days, is something that's very common amongst the female population, also, actually, right? So, it is not just something, we're not just saying pulling something out of our, took us or whatever, right? This is something that
Yeah,
is quite relevant. Go ahead.
I dated a couple girls that um, were uh, were on one of them in particular was on bipolar medication, and the other one was on something similar, um, like some kind of anti-anxiety something. She also had some sort of eating disorder.
Ah,
Um,
I see.
and you know, and I didn't. And the thing is that you can't control what's wrong with you, but you can control what you do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to your point earlier, the question about therapy is a great question because you get to sort of figure out, is this person the kind of person that's going to do something about stuff, or is this the kind
Mm-hmm.
of person that's going to not do anything and likely blame other people.
100%.
um
Remember one of our go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to say, some this is a bit of a digression, but the thing about the woman that talks about how all her past relationships were toxic, and men are all garbage and all that kind of stuff. So what that does, it does two things. One thing that it tells you is that she doesn't take accountability, because notice she didn't say anything bad about what she had done. I mean, now granted, maybe you should ask her a question to give her an opportunity to take some accountability. So,
Yes.
so are you saying that only the people that you dated, you were just totally perfect, you didn't do anything wrong? Now, you can gain some information from any kind of way that she tries to answer that. So if she tries to say, well, no, they never complain about me, I'm, X, Y, and Z. So that shows that she doesn't have any self-awareness. All
I
right.
like that you brought it because I was going to talk about the self awareness thing. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
So,
shows she doesn't have any self-awareness. It shows that she's not willing to take responsibility. She might have a sore spot for, uh, being willing to point out, her own deficiencies, and that's going to end up being a big problem.
mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that happens is, um, it shows you that if she has a history of a lot of guys that have been toxic, that shows you that she has poor mate selection. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
shows you that she is not capable of deciding what qualities are more important. And often has been the case in this community, uh, that we've talked about how women, often is the case, not all women, but often is the case that our women tend to prioritize swag over substance, and anything for a tingle. The tingle wins, right? Um, and
Mm-hmm.
and so if you have that kind of woman, and you're going to be the guy that's spending uh, 80, 100 hours a week working, when is that tingle's going to start taking over? And uh, do you really expect the guy that's working 80 to 100 hours a week to be consistently blowing your back out? I'm just saying. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
And regarding the question, Kevin Samuels asks, if I were to ask your ex how they experience you, what would they say? Right. That is something that, and it surprisingly works all the time. Right. They always, then they say something like, oh, yeah, I'm a loudmouth and I'm crazy. Like, it's kind of interesting how they tend to focus on the, but, anyways, the self awareness part is key. The last part of this mental health thing, and then the asking of the question, asking, what do you think about therapy, is that it is an index of respectful cooperation. Can they take a suggestion, right? Because
Yeah.
if they flip out, if they're like, oh, what do you mean? That was what my purpose in asking my wife prior to marriage, prior to proposal, even, right? That about the therapy thing, um, was to see if she'll be like, oh, well, I don't necessarily know anything about this kind of therapy stuff, but I'll trust you, right? That's what I was looking for. And I got that. I was like, okay, cool. Let me check that box.
Yeah, Ike wasn't wasting any time. He was on the first date asking these questions. He was like,
Uh,
check it out. I can't be wasting no time. I got to get you out of here real quick if you ate the right one.
the reality indeed. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. You can't be wasting time with these kinds of things. And actually, I think Kevin Samuels is right in the sense that it doesn't take you long. Like if you actually stop
No,
and just realize, right? Now, if you're a man, you got to be ready, and there are different ways of being ready, right? I took the kind of path of okay, I'm going to be ready after 35 type stuff. Okay, that's one path. Or you meet young and do that thing, right? But when you get to that point, it doesn't take long to know or to
no,
first of all know what you want. That you want to go, you're trying to quote unquote settle down, and it doesn't take long to find out who the right person is. It's not that crazy. Plus,
it
if you think that
absolutely
there's
does
a
not.
yeah,
It
and
absolutely does not.
there is no soulmate out there for you. If you think, oh, I just got
Mm.
to find the right one, right? You get the hell out of here. Just get the hell out of here, dude. But anyways, let me go ahead and address the super chats, or let's Dr. Thunder go ahead and address the super chats. Got a sound effect here for the reality of fitness.
Of course. Reality of fitness. Ike the mic. He's digging on your mic, man.
Thank you very much. And I think we also have another one, or perhaps a couple more, but no, another one. The Big 20 from Big Mac, the Fisher.
Yeah. It's a bitter truth that not being healed is a comfortable state of coping and acceptance of victimization, real or perceived. Let's see here. Not working through issues allows the exit of connections and intimacy.
Yes, 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 yes. Now, you see, I study a lot of psychology as part of kind of studying other things as well. And people who study psychology are kind of a little off and crazy. So what I'm confessing here is that I'm off and crazy um, in my own way. And the reason why I just said that is because I want to address this thing on the screen right now, right?
Yes.
Talking about bipolar. Let me say something about the whole medical establishment in terms of the Western medical canon or whatever, right? You're gonna have a whole bunch of people stretching things that are on. Here comes the word, Dr. Thunder, on a spectrum, right? So a lot of people out there that are diagnosed with bipolar, I would agree with this comment. They're not the real bipolar. The bipolar is a manic depressive person, and if you've seen
That's
that
right.
thing, you know it's real. The way
Yep.
you know it's real is that you're typically not with the depression, it's with the mania. Have you seen someone on mania or manic before? Where it's just they just on this high, they don't sleep for days. They're just like going, everything is all positive. And it's not a good thing. It's not a good kind of high, right? When you see someone like that and then they crash all the way down to the depressive mode, that's the real bipolar. If you're just sad on Wednesdays because you gotta do your timesheet, if you don't like doing timesheets and on Wednesdays you're sad and you go to talk to your therapy, now they put you on meds, that also happens. And guess what? That is the majority of them. Okay. But the fact that you go to therapy because you are sad about Wednesdays and taking bipolar medicine, that is a sign of someone you should avoid. Now, what exactly is wrong with them is not our concern. We're out there to make generational wealth. Ain't that right? Right. So, uh,
That's right.
and, and schizophrenia, by the way, is not bipolar. Schizophrenia, I know people confuse it with the schizo because schizo means kind of like a divide, but schizo means um, hallucination. Schizo is your classic crazy, right? When you say crazy, a mad person like talking to that kind of stuff, that is schizophrenia, right? That one too, you can't deny when you see it. It
Mm.
exists, right? So,
So
but
I
go
did
ahead.
want to share a little bit of biographical info. So I've got that Blue Pill testimonials playlist. It's 10 videos there,
Mhm.
and one of the folks that I dated, it was one of the ones that was that definitely was bipolar, And the thing is that I was so flattered by the aggressive energy in my direction. Um, well, aggressive energy. She appeared to be feminine and like that, but she was very assertive in certain ways. That was flattering. And then I don't want to give too much info, but very frequent. If you, I don't want to let the whole thing out, but very frequent and frequently so. So, it was hard for me to sort of get my head out of the whatever space so that I could start to see things clearly. But by the time I had, you know, done the thing that you should never do, move in with someone into their place, then she started to show some, the real truth about things. And it was too late at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, thankfully, once I started to see that, I had a route, I had an exit plan. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it definitely is real. It's a totally different person. It's like, man, who are you? Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know who you are. I prefer the other of the other one. All
Mm-hmm.
right, so Reality of Fitness, $33 super chat. Peace and blessings, sir. Keep it cool, classy, and courageous. Most momentously, keep up your world of wonderful work, gentlemen. If we can conceive it and believe it in our mentality, then we can achieve it in our reality. Yeah.
All right. I feel like slapping my chest like Tony Robbins. We're gonna walk over coal now, and thank you for the words of encouragement. Okay, so we're kind of just pausing and hovering around this mental illness aspect because it is something that can be hidden. Okay, it's not an obvious broken leg. We use the broken leg puppy analogy and the damsel in distress talk, but this this thing can be hidden, right? And it can be something that you may
Nope.
want to kind of tuck away. A big one too is alcohol. I'm not talking. Look, and you can grow and develop and get past certain things, right? Maybe both of you guys met at the bar and you guys were heavy drinkers. Both of you need some fixing, right? Uh,
Right.
in other words, there are certain things, especially if you meet young, okay, you guys are gonna have your issues are not yet resolved, and then you're gonna want to resolve them. And if it is unresolvable, or if they're not willing to go with you on this path of quote unquote healing, then it's not gonna work out on this generational wealth thing that we're talking about, right? So the alcohol stuff is key. If everything revolves around alcohol, right? And also there's a certain type of alcohol consumption that I like to emphasize. Like if this person likes a nice Chianti with their lamb because they just kind of like the smokiness of the Chianti, it goes with the whatever of the lamb and the whatever, right? And maybe once in a while they like a snifter of a very good cognac after their dinner. And maybe that's fine, maybe, right? But if they're just trying to jungle juice it every time, they don't even want to taste the alcohol, okay? And this
Mad
is a
Dog
good
2020.
exactly. If somebody does not even want to taste the alcohol, in other words, if they just like, oh yeah, just gonna cranberry juice and just vodka, that this is way beyond the aesthetic of the wine or the good cognac, right? In other words, I'm giving some allowance for some aesthetic stuff here. It's like, hey, you got to eat some nice lamb and maybe you want some Chianti with it. But if you're going with
Mm,
the jungle juice, if she's a jungle juice lady, she's always showing up with a fifth of vodka and a gallon of orange juice to your house. That's a
mm.
problem. Okay, it's
What was
not.
that? What was that stuff that a bunch of folks they couldn't? they couldn't handle it or something. It's like a energy drink and liquor at the same time or something. What is it called?
40 Loco. There was another one called
Yeah, yeah,
Sparks.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was a
Yes,
Sparks guy. It's like Red Bull and alcohol, right? I used to love that crap. It's interesting, and here's another point I want to make, and that's why I say that I'm kind of a crazy person, and that's why I study what I study. But a mistake I used to make, and this is a silly mistake. Don't think that people are gonna handle their issues the way you are handling your issues. Like, oh, there's
Hmm.
another broken person, but it's fine because I'm broken and but I'm doing my little Spider-Man thing here and I have a plan to exit, blah blah blah. No, find a healthy person. Let me say that again. Even if you're broken, but you know that you have your way of quote unquote coping for now, you're using a crutch, you're doing this, you're doing that. Don't go and look at somebody else and then paint the positive narrative that, oh, they're also using crutches and this and that, and they'll just come along with me and when we're ready, we'll fly off together. No, it's not going to happen. Okay. Or the chances that's going to happen
Now
are
wait a minute, but
slim. Yeah.
yeah, but wait a minute, isn't that unfair judging? Aren't you judging them with the mote in your own eye, the speck in their eye?
Hmm. 100%. But here's the thing, we're being pragmatic here. We're talking about a goal, we have a target. We're not talking about being physicians, healing people. We're not talking about fairness and community. We're saying, hey, generational wealth, something where you're going to establish a family and the family is going to go on for at least 6 generations of success and so on and so forth, financially and whatever it may be. There is a target. And to be pragmatic and statistical about that, we have to look at the path that will most
Yeah.
likely get you there, right? Not
I think
about what's fair. Yeah.
I think you let that go a little too easily. I would argue that uh, the this is not the issue at all. The judging someone, it's we're not judging the state of their soul. We're not
Hmm.
saying that they're bad people. We're just saying I'm not going to partner with you, and you have the freedom to partner with whoever you want to, and to cut people off, even if it's indiscriminately. I mean,
Hmm.
that is your right, you know?
100%. 100%. Because people have multiple chances in life, and it is rather arrogant to think that you are the solution to their problem, right? Or you are
Mm.
the only show in town or the last stop. Like, oh, you if I don't save them, they're gonna. No, 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 no. There are many, many, many other people, many, many, many other chances, many other opportunities for them to fail, perhaps make mistakes and learn. Trust me, just like you had in your life. So when somebody makes a mistake with you and you shut the door, you're not shutting the door on that person's life. Let me tell you, let me say it again. If you decide to cut somebody off, whether it be an employee, but let's stick with the topic. In this case, you're talking about the kind of spouse to bring in. If you say, okay, cool, no, you're not for me, definitely not at this time, that's not the end of their life, dude. Like they're going, trust me, they can still, in other words, find a way. There are billions of other people in the planet and many other cities, many other opportunities, many other jobs if it's an employee kind of a situation, right? I've been fired before. Okay. I mean,
Mm.
it wasn't the end of my life, right? So the idea that, oh, I need to hold on to something because I'm God, and if I let them go, then they're gonna disappear from the universe. No, they're not gonna disappear from the universe. They'll do just fine. And what you did to them by cutting them off might be the catalyst. It might be the catalyst that show them, maybe I should take this therapy thing seriously. Maybe I should be more introspective and accountable. Right? Ain't that right, Dr. Thunder? That's more or less what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it's like tough love, right? Um, if you don't ever show a particular kind of consequence for being a habitual line stepper, uh, then then that person's never going to learn anything. And as you said, sometimes removing yourself from the situation is that correction. And
Mm-hmm.
not only that, so that's of course this advice is for, and this line, or rather this line of thought is for the person that has such a difficult time cutting folks off because they're so concerned about what will happen to them in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but we have to be um, about what our goals are, or else the goals don't actually mean anything.
Hmm. Or else the goals do not actually mean anything. So there is a let's move on from the mental health thing a little bit, okay? And let's talk about the relationship that she has with her father.
Oh no.
This is a very important one. You said, "Oh no, oh yeah, maybe."
Oh no.
Papa was a Rolling Stone. Papa is a no good nigga. I don't know. Something. Look, it's going to be very important in this because we're talking about again generational wealth. Therefore, we're talking about families and community and the future, and hence you have to look back into the past, fortunately or unfortunately, and see the kind of relationship, the kind of stock she's coming from, and also the current relationship that she has with her father, because it is a excellent pointer as to how she handles. I'm going to use these two words: masculine authority. Okay? Because
Mm.
an excellent index of how she handles masculine authority and how she sees men in general. Okay? This is not rocket science we're talking about, right? So if we started out with the relationship thing, all her past relationships were toxic and she's not on speaking terms with her dad. I'm not saying, oh, she's got to be all chummy with her dad, because I understand personalities, right? Some personalities, take my personality for example, not just, we're not going to be so into being, we're not very expressive in that kind of a way, right? But if there is open animosity, not on speaking terms or something like that, that is another red flag, right? And I got a comment on that, Dr. Thunder.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, it's interesting. Uh, I've had relationships with folks that they never really had a relationship with their dad. Um, and I remember in one such case, uh, when I brought up these topic of, you know, do you wonder ever like what he's doing, or I mean, would you ever want to like reconnect? And that was a super sore point. And in fact, they were quite jealous of the relationship that I had with my father. I admire my father, um, and I tell everybody that I do, because he's the kind of dad. He's the kind of dad that should be celebrated, um,
Mm-hmm.
and because he didn't make those sorts of excuses that many folks from our community make. That
Mm-hmm.
well, all I saw was crime and drugs, and that was the only way that I thought I could get out. And so I did this, all of that. He didn't do any of that. And once more, he didn't have a relationship with his dad,
Hmm.
but yet he made uh, good decisions, did the right things, worked hard, and set his family up. So that's something that I admire. It's something that I seek to be, is more like my dad. And so yeah, so folks are going to hear about that, and if that is a problem, me
Mm-hmm.
expressing that kind of admiration for my father, um, that it kind of tells you what the future is going to be. You have kids with this person, and are they going to be steering their child to admire you, or are they going to be trying to find different situations, even if it's not consciously, but subconsciously, are they going to be finding ways to undermine your authority to try to drive a wedge between you and your kid?
100%. This is also something that dovetails with the mental illness thing, because here's something that people whom have a, yeah, like if you never knew your dad, that's one thing, right? But you can still have a positive attitude towards, fatherhood in general and someone expressing admiration for their father, right? Another thing is people whom have this kind of my father, especially let's say it's a woman, because again, we're talking about masculine authority. And I like using those words because the degree to which, okay, this could be another test. If you say words like masculine authority to her, if she cringes, just get the hell get her out of there. Just
Mm.
okay. Because I'm not even okay. Let me just say it. Let me soften it. No one ever questions the respect and love and whatever other things that we say about your mother, right?
Nope.
Especially in certain communities where it's kind of overblown, in my opinion, in certain communities, right? But
Nope.
if you say masculine authority and there's some kind of a raised eyebrow, something like, I almost want to say slap somebody, but I'm not, I think I'm in Africa now, and I guess my getting a little Africanized, I'm trying to, but the point is, it's ridiculous. It's stupid if that kind of reaction comes up. And it's a great sign that this is not somebody that understands the whole family structure and the generational wealth aspect. They're definitely not going to help you. Okay. They're not going to help you with this for sure. So, um, what we're talking about here about the father also is something that if somebody does not have a good relationship with their parents and they are looking at their parents as, let's say, a bad person, they're going to do the same thing with you. Here's a complex that people tend to have. And let me make sure I can express this correctly. And I'm going to ask for, shall we say, if the chat understands what I'm saying. So basically, typically we kind of, shall we say, we deify our parents. Our parents are gods or something like that, right? When we're growing up. And then later, we demonize them. Now, I'm not talking about completely, okay? But even you, Dr. Thunder, at some point, I'm sure towards your dad, you were like, this dude, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe it could be 10 years old, it could be 11 years old, whatever it is. So you deify them and then you demonize them. But balance and reality only strikes in when you humanize them, and that tends to come later on. So after you grow up, that is actually a marker of somebody, of a man becoming a man, when he actually then sees his father as a human being and not either a god or a devil. Now, why do I say that? Can I get a one in the chat, first of all, if that idea makes sense? Is that we tend to deify and then we demonize, and we need to balance out by humanizing our parents, right? Especially the father.
Mm.
The mother tends to have a different thing going on. You know, the mother relationship is more straightforward. The father is the one where there's this dialectic going on where he's great and he's horrible, and then you have to then look at him as a man, just like you, with all your BS, and he is entitled to his BS too, right? How come he's not entitled to having some foibles and flaws? So guess what? Somebody who has not humanized their parents is going to do the same thing with you. They're going to deify you in the beginning of the relationship, and then guess what happens? You're going to become a demon, right? You're either an angel or you're a devil. Have you had an experience with this, Dr. Thunder? And with regards to why this is not good for generational wealth, I think it's kind of clear because we're going to be going through a particular human struggle together. And if we're going to be making mistakes, I'm going to be falling flat on my face sometimes. I'm not going to be around a lot. I'm going to be working a lot, so on and so forth. If you don't see me as a human being, if you see me as a god, right, that is later going to become a devil, that's a bad thing. Ain't that right, Dr. Thunder?
Yeah. The thing is that you are what is it? Fait accompli, that you will see them as a devil if you first saw them as a god, because no one can stand up to that sort of standard. And so as soon as you see them start to be human and fail miserably as God, then there is the polarity. And when we're young, we tend to sort of we're trying to figure out what the parameters are. We're creating bookends. We're bouncing all around. It's like, well, if it isn't this, then it's that way over there. Um, uh, so yeah, that is the case. I remember when I was a teenager was kind of that phase for me. And I'd say I want to say somewhere in the oh goodness, probably somewhere around 16, uh, 17, maybe all the way up to maybe 21, in that range. That was the kind of range where that started to become the case. And then after that, I think I started to see him, um, and understand certain things. In particular, after uh, I'm in my second marriage. In my first marriage, when that began, I really started to see some things that I did not understand or have any. I had no perspective for prior to that, and just yeah.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Yeah. Someone's mom was a Sith Lord. I like that. Someone said her mom, his mom told him not to trust anyone, including her. That's very Sith Lord like. That's like martial. That's like the sensei type training. It's like just go straight for forget the pampering phase. You're like, hey, you can't trust me. Yeah, that'll
Hey,
wake you up real quick.
let me answer this thing that Aaron is saying. I think
Okay.
maybe he misunderstood me. Um, he's asking, "Are you saying God was once a devil?" No, that's not what I was saying. I'm saying it's fait accompli that if you at one point in time saw your parents, let's talk about the father, you see your father as God, he most certainly will not be able to stand up to that. So any sort of testing, uh, they're going to fail, and once they fail miserably, uh, you know, the tendency is to what's the polarity, what's the other thing. So I think that's um, I think when you're young too, you don't necessarily see things as gray, right? It's like black and white, right? And so I think there's a tendency to hyperbolize.
100%. And that gets this. There was a short point I was going to say here, and you actually just went right into it, which is basically,
Okay.
hence, having said this thing about the God complex and all that kind of stuff, as a man whom is going for this generational wealth thing, you already got some brass balls or a big ego or whatever you want to call it. I'm putting it in a negative light. You already have certain blind spots, if you will, and you may be prone to wanting the hero worship, but you need, and this is a hard one because it's a very fine line, right? A woman whom is worshiping you like a god, no. But then what is the balance between, oh, you're the best thing that ever happened in my life, Ike, and uh, worship? Uh, I tend to do it this way. And there's subtle ways of bringing it out. You want to know what somebody admires about you. You know what I mean? it You want it to be external. It's like in our conversation about the self last time when we said you want to be proud of your accomplishments, but you don't want to be quote unquote just proud of your quote unquote self, whatever that means. What the hell is that? I'm just no, because you're not going to live up to it. Same thing with this whole God thing you just said, right? Your
Mm.
father's not going to live up to being God, and you being proud of your metaphysical global self is not going to stand up to scrutiny because you're full of crap. Okay, so if somebody is just like, oh, you're just this great person, without rather than saying, you know what, I like how you're able to tackle problems and you always follow through, or I like that you're a polymath, or I like the fact that you take risks. That's something that's tangible, right? If a woman, in other words, should be able to articulate, demarcate what she admires about you, as opposed to some kind of hero worship, because the hero worship is going to turn into a demon slayer at some point, right? So any thoughts on that? How to kind of find out the whole hero worship thing. My method is just to kind of find out in a non-cringe way, okay, if she can actually, if you can find out what she likes about you in that you can say, okay, yes, these things are actually true. They are external to me. These are skills that I have, as opposed to, I'm a god or something, right?
Yeah, I've done that same thing. I've asked, in particular, my wife. I've asked her those kinds of questions, um, to kind of get an idea of what the deal is. Uh, it's interesting. There's in this sort of manosphere space, there's this sort of talk about how uh, men love, uh, what is it, idealistically, and women love, what is the phrase, or the word, I don't want to say opportunistically, but it's something to
Hmm.
that effect, because, and that's not, and it's actually not a bad thing, because women have to protect themselves.
Yeah.
They have to put
New
themselves in
men come in all the time. New men come through the gates, conquer the territory, and what are you going to do? Right? It's just- you got to start loving these new men. So, anyways, go ahead.
Aaron put it, conditionally. All
Yes.
right. So,
Yes.
now, I would argue that all human love is conditional to some extent.
Hmm.
But this idea that men are the true romantics, um, uh, uh, this is kind of dark, but it reminds me of one of the clips that CGA frequently plays. Uh, what is the guy's name? Fernando or Francisco or something, and he's outside of his, well, he thought it was his woman, uh, their house, or her house or place, and he's out there serenading her, and it's Mexican. He's serenading her, and and she comes out with the guy, and and she's like looking embarrassed and stuff. Not embarrassed because she got caught. Embarrassed, like, man, won't you go away? And this dude is crying and stuff when he's singing, and it's so terrible. Um, but it's men that do that kind of stuff, though. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, other than like
Men are,
a woman,
it's men that simp. Go ahead.
yeah. Other than like some of those. I mean, what was it? Was it there was the astronaut or something that drove all the way like across the country with a diaper on or something. She did so that, yeah, you remember the story? You know what I'm talking about? That so that she could uh, catch the guy doing something, or so that she could see the guy. She was like obsessed with the guy, and he was like
Huh.
married or something. I can't remember. This is like a story from the 2000s. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I mean, there is that story, but that just seemed like she was like just crazy or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a crazy woman. That's a crazy one.
but
And yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, but it seems that guys are the ones that are putting their neck out and willing to embarrass themselves for the sake of a woman. The whole dragon slayer. The whole rescuing the damsel in distress. That whole thing. That is a construction. I mean, men. That's all. That's men 100%. I don't see women being willing to engage in any of those kinds of activities, nor should they. Nor should
Yes.
they.
Um, yes. So basically, what we're saying is you need to be able to find out the conditions of her love for you, because if it's unconditional, it's crazy. If it's unconditional, then it's based on a delusion, right? In other words, everything as says here on the screen is conditional. We live in a world of space, time, and causality, and these things put conditions on each other, right? There's
That's
no
right.
other way to go around it. So if somebody is loving you unconditionally, then you know that the condition is a delusion that they have, right? That's what's causing that. There is a
Yeah,
condition. It's just a delusion. And when it wears off, then you're going to be in for a, shall we say, rude surprise. Now,
that's right.
let's talk about something else, because again, we're talking about the kind of woman that you should bring in if you're going to build this generational wealth. This is the second part of the conversation that we had last week. If you didn't check out the one from last week, go out and check it out after this one, because in the first one we also laid out some very important things, talked about the woman of Proverbs 31, industrious, wise, and so on and so forth, right? And many other things were also laid out there. But let me talk now about the raising of the children and her ideas about raising children. This is something that you need to know prior to, okay, right? Like, take me for example, okay? I like the idea of boarding school. I know it's not an American thing, but who cares whether what's American or not, right? It doesn't matter. It is what it is. A boarding school, right, is a. I went there, right? That's one reason why I liked it. But I'm weird like that. Typically, people don't necessarily want to leave their home and go somewhere, blah blah blah. But I'm a crazy type of person. But I understood, even though with all the negatives that came with it, that is the thing that was necessary for me to be a man, for me to learn discipline, for me to be amongst my peers and be judged a certain way, for me to fight through the social hierarchies and find my place, right? To get out of your freaking house, right? I'm not saying that, obviously, I'm not saying that this is your thing. I'm saying that this is my thing. And I wanted to align, I wanted to find out what this person's thoughts about that was. Okay. Now, it doesn't have to perhaps line 100%. We all have our different conditions, some of which we are kind of 50% about, and some of which are a must, right? We have our must haves and our nice to haves. So I would say the boarding school thing is close to the almost a must have, especially for a boy, right? Because I just
Yeah.
can't fathom the
Yep.
idea that this dude is just going to be around till he's 18. No, get the hell out at some point in terms of getting trained. Obviously, they come back for holidays and stuff like that, but get the hell out of the house. Go into a strange place with a whole group of people who are new, and make your way there and deal with the crap there. Yes, get bullied. Yes, get your bucket stolen in the morning and you can't fetch the water and your slippers are blah, blah, blah. And you learn how to take care of your own things. All that kind of stuff was 100% important to me. And I also made sure I brought it up tactfully with my wife prior to even being engaged to see. So the children aspect is key here, because we're talking about generational wealth. And if you don't train your children correctly, ain't gonna be no generational wealth. Okay, it's gonna it's gonna be your wealth, and that's it. It's gonna
That's
end,
right.
right? So the training, hence the children are important. The training of the children is also important, and the alignment between you and her vis-a-vis the training of the children is important. So, any thoughts on that aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. You know, you said especially for boys, and I would so much the more say for black boys. Um, it's of critical importance that level of discipline is instilled early and often in whatever means is necessary to make it sink in. And maybe the answer is not necessarily boarding school, but my son is in private school, and I will do whatever necessary to keep him at least in private school. Um, I think as he gets older, uh, boarding school could be something that uh, is a possibility. I've not had that conversation with my spouse yet, but she understands that um, the discipline, the learning at a certain level, and the setting him up for the future is a definite priority. One of the things that happens frequently in households is, and some of this is unwitting, happens unwittingly. Uh, the your wife can actually be undermining your authority by sort of attempting to sort of soften the blow of certain things that you're saying. Now, if you're saying, "Look, this is how we're going to handle this X, Y, and Z. You didn't take the trash out. You didn't do X, whatever it is," and they're kind of like, "Well, I know he's just kind of upset right now, and X, Y, and Z." No, should not be doing that. Should not be doing that. He needs to hear that this is serious, and you need to not be trying to soften and protect the kid from me. There is no protection from me. I'm the one that pays for all of this. You know. So uh, now, granted, obviously, behind closed doors when the kid can't see, then you can have your conversation about, well, I thought you didn't handle this way, or I think another approach we could do that. It doesn't seem that approach works very well with him, or all of that kind of stuff, so that you can have a sort of unified kind of front. Now, if your spouse is unwilling, to comply with that, and to not disagree with the way that you're with your edict, your punishment, to the kid, and they're disagreeing with you in front of the kid, that's I mean, that's and so we had several conversations about discipline, what we thought discipline needed to be, and the kind of upbringing that both of us had. And our parents are old school, and we were getting spankings and all that. All we had all of those kind of conversations. So I had an idea of the style of discipline that she was going to be comfortable with, which was very similar to my own. Oh, you're muted.
Yes. So I used a particular example and they dovetail into the discipline talk. But basically, the idea here is how to raise the child, and it needs to be kind of clear. You guys need to be in the same vicinity. Okay, you guys need to be in the same neighborhood. Otherwise, it's just going to lead to, because basically what you're trying to do here is almost like you're going on this trip, and you're trying to pack things in the right. We want to make sure that you guys are on the in agreement as to the right things you need to pack and where it needs to go. It's going to fit in the car. How heavy is the car? What is the gas going to be? What's this journey you're going on? You're going on the journey of generational wealth. Okay. And you don't want to, in the middle of the journey, be like, oh, I thought we were supposed to stop. It's like, no. We never agreed to take this detour or this stop or this. It's like, no, but we never discussed that. You're not going to get there, that journey. And it's going to be a more painful journey with more friction. And the world is already tough enough as it is. This is a momentous task, this task of going out there and establishing something for future generations. Hence, you want to make sure that that car is packed correctly and you understand how many stops, what the gas mileage is on the car, how much gallons of gas, all that kind of stuff, right? So 100%. Not to take too much of a detour here, but this thing about love always,
Yes.
it's always interesting to me. Well, you got something to say about
Yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah. I wanted to digress to that point, and actually, because we were talking around this conditional and unconditional, or the whatever our bookend, uh, whatever the bookends were, um, and it made me reflect back. At the end of a Thunder's thoughts, I was with Dr. Doug, we were
Hmm.
talking about uh, a comment that I made during one of Donovan Sharp's The Six a couple weeks
Hmm.
ago, and uh, so my comment was, it was in a super chat, was, see, the issue here is that um, infatuation
Hmm.
uh, or love, it's actually not those things, it's worship. So the issue here is that when men get into this simp zone, um, really what it is that they're worshiping the woman,
Hmm.
and no one can stand up to being God.
And
No one.
that's why she immediately looks down on you, and that's why she's correct to look down on you when you worship her, because she's looking at herself like, and she knows her crap, right? And then there you are worshiping, you must be worse crap than I am then. Right? So
That's right.
100%. 100%. I don't know if you were done with the point, but the love thing with regards to what the comment here, a person who never taught love. Now, you mentioned a couple of things. You talk about infatuation, and then we can talk about being a social creature, right? Being a mammal. Being a mammal means at some point, whether you're a puppy or a human being, there's going to be some talk about love. I don't know what dogs call it, right? But the fact that you're a social being, there's going to be about that something that social cement, okay? Whether it be giving up the cookies, as Leroy said it, or whatever else it may be, right? You're not a fish where the lady comes and she lays her eggs, the guy comes through, throws the sperm, and they just leave. It's like, or lizards are like, in other words, there's something mammalian, social about this concept. That's the context of it, right? But in many African languages, the word love does not exist. Oh, let me see here.
Oh, it
Can
timed
you
out on
still
you.
hear?
Yeah, I
Can you
can
hear
hear you.
me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Sorry, it timed out. So, in many African languages, the word love does not exist. Okay, so it has always been an interesting thing to me. Therefore, when people talk about this thing, because if I may just share my experience a little bit. So, besides being, and pardon the screens are coming back on or whatever, so it's going to look weird for a second. But besides being a weird, cold-hearted bastard, which I am, I also have an
And a
excuse,
misogynist.
right? Oh yeah, and a misogynist, a cold-hearted bastard misogynist. Uh, but I also have an excuse in the sense that in my particular language, or so most Nigerian languages don't have that word. In other words, romantic love is not a concept
Right.
that we have. Okay, did I get timed out again?
I mean, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. It's something strange. It's the generator. Africa problems, ladies and gentlemen. We're switching power from this to that. But anyways, the concept of romantic love does not exist in these languages. So you will find that the ways in which people express themselves is very different. People are less likely to simp, which is a good part. In these kinds of at least they're not going to simp with the language. They may be simping, they're going to be doing their worshiping in other ways, but they don't have the language, they don't have the romance languages. Now, one last thing on the love thing, and I'll move on. As a matter of fact, the idea of courtly love and romantic love was a French invention at some point. In other words, it has a history, and you may want to look into the history and the genealogy of the word, because it didn't just come out of nowhere, right? Again, I'm not saying it's made up. I said if you're a mammal, there's going to be some idea of social cohesion. And there are going to be many
Yeah.
ways in which it manifests itself and many levels in which you could talk about it. But the concept of romantic love doesn't exist in all languages. In most African languages, in my part of West Africa at least, there was no such thing. So it was very much a white people thing, actually, when the way we used to look at it. Like, what's up with these white people with their French kissing and their I love you and all that kind of crap. It was a lot different. There was more concept uh, of responsibility and respect and duty and things like that. Those are the things that kind of, when it comes to the social sphere, those were the things that we kind of celebrated, talked about. We had festivals about, so on and so forth. Not with the flowers and the flowery love and blah blah blah. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts again on this whole love thing,
Yeah, yeah,
given what I've said.
yeah. I mean, I can just go to the sort of diversity of the use of that word in a sort of Christian context and a Bible context. There's eros. That's erotic love. So that's basically it's chemical. There is uh, uh, phileo love. That's as in friendship, right? There's agape love. That's the God kind of love. Um, so that's the unconditional love. Um, and and then something that I I I talk about frequently is this idea that love is not a feeling, but rather uh, it is it's sort of it's it's a commitment, it's responsibility, as you were suggesting, right? Uh, it's responsibility. It's those things, because those are the things that uh, those are the things that you can actually touch, and you can actually see that actually exist. It's not chemical. It's not a feeling, right? It's not something. It's not euphoria. It's not
Hmm.
infatuation.
Hmm.
It's none of those things. Uh, it is, uh, the whole commitment thing is the sort of central and most important component of the uh, Christian concept of love. Now, unfortunately, what's happened is you have all of these folks, these preachers and other folks subscribing to stuff that is totally outside of the scope of any sort of concept of what the Bible expresses as love. You'll see people refer to the Song of Solomon.
Hmm.
Um, it's like, well, hey, Solomon, he had, all of the look at all of the flowery language and all of the poetry and all like this. See, look, romantic love is there, and I'm not saying that he didn't have a sense of affinity for the woman, but he also had 800 wives. So I'm it's the funniest thing to me is people do not put that in proper context. Your idea, your monogamous idea of love, where happy wife, happy life, cater to all of the needs, say all of this stuff, buy me flowers, do it, all of these things, and I'm not saying that any of that stuff except for happy wife, happy life is necessarily bad. I'm just saying, um, you're using that and you see that, but you also are conveniently forgetting and leaving out the most important component of the most important context,
Hmm.
the contextual information rather. Uh, the
Hmm.
guy the guy had like 800 wives. So which of the 800 wives was he talking to? You know?
100%.
Okay. So
Yeah. So the sublimation of eros through poetry and things like that, through art, through creativity, through certain other kinds of endeavors in the world, is a way of explaining human psychology, psychodynamically, anyways. In terms of like, well, we do what we do, as you say, you like to talk about the office. The office. There's nothing but sex, right? There are no products. There's no nothing. There's just sex, right? There is no language. As a matter of fact, all this, there's nothing. Everything that we're really talking about right now is just because of sex. That's one way of founding everything. You could talk about economies based on sex, technology based on sex, sociology, psychology, philosophy, just sex, right? So it definitely is a powerful thing, and then it does get sublimated, to use a kind of arcane word. Uh, Eros gets sublimated into fine poetry, for example. But it's just an activity that we tend to do. Now, let's start landing and playing. If I'm correct, I think that I'm sure time has gone by, because I have not noticed the time, and that tends to mean that time has actually gone by. So
Yeah.
let me say a couple of things. One thing that you need to do with this woman, because so far we've been talking about, and this is the second part where we're talking about the kind of women to avoid and the kind of women that you want to bring in while you're on this journey of generational wealth. Okay? What you need to do also with her is you need to, and it goes into the sublimation of, there's an artistic aspect of it. Now, not everybody's going to be equally talented in terms of painting the picture of the story, but you can, of the future, but you could just say it quite blatant, quite clearly. In other words, you need to have a story that she is coming into. Remember, I said that you need to look at your life, okay, man out there, like an employer. And she's coming into a particular role. You say, hey, I am Dr. Thunder Enterprises. I am Taboo Smash Enterprises. I'm Joy Gilroy or Doe Supervision or Falcon Black Enterprises. And there is a position, an opening in my marketing department. Okay. I need you for my marketing department. Again, because women play that role for a man. They bestow a sense of social class and responsibility and they make a man more palatable in the social sphere, right? Make it more acceptable in the social sphere. That's what your marketing department does for you. It's the branding. She's right there in your arms, makes you look responsible. If you're just standing there alone, you're a little sketchy and suspicious, right? So you bringing her in. She's the marketing department. Here is what the role entails. Here's what the role pays. Here are the what's provided for you. Because, for example, if someone is going to hire you, they don't give you a cell phone. They don't give you a chair. They don't give you a computer. There is no internet connection. You don't even know what the role is. That's the recipe for disaster. And we're talking pragmatically here. We're talking about getting ish done, are we not, Dr. Thunder? And we're talking about getting ish
Absolutely.
done at the most difficult levels that you can push yourself to, right? Therefore, you have to be very practical and pragmatic about it. After all, you are the freaking man, are you not? Right? So you got to have a story. Now, some of us lyricists out there, we're good at embellishing and talking all kinds of nonsense, telling her all kinds of crap about what's going to happen, okay, and what she's coming into. But regardless, okay, the basic thing is you're the employer. What's the role that she's coming in to fill? Think about it yourself. Like, what is Leroy Enterprises? What role? What is the thing that Leroy cannot do that he needs a woman for? I tend to think that it generally is the marketing department. She's there to do, including the procreating and the children stuff. But basically, she's there to improve your brand. So you need to have a clear notion of that. We talked about, getting what you want last time, maybe 2 episodes ago. Oh, it was a special Sunday episode, the power of persuasion. And one main thing out of that was you need to be able to clearly define what exactly it is you want and what exactly the picture of the future is that you're trying to paint for somebody, whether you're trying to sell them a future of kids and grandkids, or you're trying to sell them a dishwasher. It doesn't matter. If you cannot paint a clear picture of how this dishwasher is going to give them bliss and how it fits into their kitchen flow and it's how it's going to make them able to be more comfortable in their kitchen, or how they're going to come into your life and do XYZ. If you cannot take them into Storyville, as I like to tell it, you need to be able to bring the woman into Storyville, is what I'm saying. You need to be clear about what the picture is, where she fits in, because that's going to be it's important to her. Okay, does that make sense, Dr. Thunder? Like, this is not for you, gentlemen. But if you want her to sit there next to you and actually go on this journey with you, you need to know what the journey is and tell her exactly, hey, this is the marketing department. This is what it pays. This is what the benefits are. These are the tools that you need. I'm relying on you. I need you. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, that's true. And one thing that we said in that persuasion, that special Sunday episode, was just the idea of you know knowing what you're saying, so you don't have to beat around the bush, because you're wasting people's time doing that, and you'll probably make them feel less confident in what it is that you can do, by sort of eventually getting around to it. You're not even willing to ask the question. You're so
Mm, mhm,
you're so
mhm, mhm.
apprehensive. Yeah.
Here's the last point I gotta make about the kind of a woman. A woman that hates being a woman.
Oh
Let me
no.
repeat that. I'm not talking about, she doesn't have to be a transformer, as they say, a Decepticon. I'm just talking about a woman that hates being a woman. So let me put some nuance to this. Let me get a one in the chat if we recognize this fact. It is more likely that a woman wants to be a man than a man wants to be a woman. And by want, I don't mean, again, Decepticon. What I mean is, a woman might dream of, women write songs like If I Were a Man, for example, right? Men tend not to write those kinds of songs, okay? I'm going somewhere with this, right? I'm going somewhere with this. It tends to be the case that women are a little bit more dissatisfied with womanhood, generally speaking. And if a woman is honest with you, and this is part of where I'm going with this. If a woman is honest with you, she'll actually acknowledge that, as opposed to, oh no, you're a misogynistic whatever. Which, yeah, I already know I'm a misogynist, so you don't need to tell me that. But
That's right.
it tends to be the case. Friedrich Nietzsche kind of wrote it just like in passing, that, yeah, of course, women don't really like being women. And that's why they don't necessarily like each other either. But that's normal.
Oh,
What I'm Same thing, right?
yeah.
So, but what I'm trying to do is paint the baseline. I say a woman that hates being a woman. So, what's the baseline? The baseline is, yeah, women generally are kind of more dissatisfied with themselves than men are, right? So, that's not what I mean. Okay, that's just a normal woman. What I mean is a woman that actually hates being a woman, that really just
Yeah.
everything she does is trying to turn her into some kind of "I am woman, hear me roar" thing, which is kind of crazy. You're not supposed to be roaring out there as a woman, right? Uh, all she's really telling you is, "I wish I was a man," and not just the normal wish that women tend to have, but I actually hate the fact that I'm a woman. Now, this is not a. I'm not. This is not about judging this person, because we don't care about that. Like, that's, I don't know. I don't know what we're not here to discuss the consequences, pros and cons of having that kind of a mindset. The fact is, it's not going to work in the building of generational wealth, in the place where you actually need a woman to play that role, being the marketing department or whatever. If the marketing department hates marketing, your establishment is not going to work out, right? So it's key. And I want the whole thing about women don't really like being women. I just wanted to establish that as a baseline, because if you go out there and be like, oh, but there are a lot of, that's just normal, that women will fantasize about being a man, but it's rare. I've never met a man that's like, oh, I wish I was a woman. That's kind of crazy. But so, any thoughts on that, and then any last words to add, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So, good show again, man. It's always interesting, thought provoking. Always great to collaborate with you, my brother. And uh, maybe I'll just do this right now. I've got a couple things I can plug. So I had an episode of Conversations with Dr. Thunder that premiered this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That was with Sanda Mat uh, Masic. She's Serbian, and I
Okay.
had to practice that pronunciation. Uh, but that was a interesting conversation. And then tomorrow night I'll be interviewing the Angry Man, which means
Mm-hmm.
that Thursday morning, 10 a.m. Unless he has an early morning stream, that interview will premiere. So I'm really looking forward to that. That will round out my collectibles of the founders of the Black Manosphere, the three kings, as it were. Because I interviewed Mumia and also O'Shea. So that's very cool. And Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I've got an episode of Thunder's Thoughts with Dr. Doug. Interesting episode. The topic is, or the question that I'm asking us to ponder is, do high value men want to subjugate women? Do high value men want to subjugate women? And we're doing video breakdowns of a couple different videos. One of them is by a TikToker named Kitty J Rose, and we did on the show that we just did last week, where we reviewed we broke down one of Chantel's video. We did another Kitty J Rose video. And the other video is actually also a TikToker. Let's see here, Bianca L. Gibson on TikTok. She's got about 128,000 followers on there, so she's got a heavy following. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. We'll keep that moving, and then this Sunday, it'll be back to Case Closed with our esteemed panel, including Ike and myself, but then also Ramil, and of course it's on Solo TV 84's channel, and Chantel Simone, who is absolutely blowing up right now. Congratulations to her. Congratulations to her. She I saw her on Lapif. What was it,
That was a
yesterday?
crazy. That was a
Yeah.
crazy. I listened to like 2 minutes of it, and then I dropped some kind of insult in the chat and left.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, it was like she was doing her best to fight him off.
Yeah,
But that was a
yeah.
that's a great opportunity for her. I mean, her channel has grown like crazy in the last 3 weeks. I think she's gained like 4,000 subscribers or something. More than that. I mean, really stratospheric growth. So congratulations to her. Hopefully we can keep her on Case Closed. She she's
Danielle in the Lions Den. That's a good comment. Someone said Danielle in the Lions Den. That's a good one.
oh,
Um,
right. Oh, right.
um, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess my final point about this is, the biggest issue here is, it's again, the two things that can jack you up as a man the most are money and women.
Mm-hmm.
That's just facts. Money and women. And if you're trying to build something meaningful, develop, as Ike has continued to say, generational wealth, then you got to have a team player. You got to have someone that is going to be on your program,
Mm-hmm.
and these are, and I think we've presented several things to to consider and to think about as you're vetting your queen, your future queen, uh, Kween. Um,
Quang.
and but just be smart out there. Just you know, make sure you use your pervert protection pack, and you'll
Pervert
be.
Protection Pack.
Let's shout out to Minister Jap.
Oh,
Uh,
Minister Jeff. Okay. Gotcha. I got a
I'm
comment
kidding.
on the screen here, and reminds me of something that I was having a conversation with K Polymath and Anastasia, someone we're going to be talking to weekly, an East African, a Kenyan lady. But anyways, towards the end of that conversation, we were talking about my proclivities, not just as an introvert, but also as a particular kind of introvert that really like very insular in a certain way, and politics and we and things such as unity, which is in this in this comment, always just makes my skin crawl. But I understand that it's very important, and so on and so forth. But all I gotta say is, I try my best to do what I do. You just gotta know that Ike is that person over there. Does that make sense, Leroy? Ike is the person that is going to be that weird guy that is, doing, likes to kind of do his thing and is a introvert and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and is always talking about you from your first person subjective person, right? I'm going to talk about first person subjective all the time. You want to talk we? Many people would tell you about we and unity and stuff like that. We definitely need both, but I'm the one that is going to tell you about your subjective consciousness and what you need to do about it, and always talking about things from a first person perspective. And you goddamn extroverts out there can do your crap, okay? So with that, ladies and gentlemen, and no shade, Leroy, you know how it is. Um, we're going to be back next week for sure with another episode, but I'll be here tomorrow with Joan, okay?
Yes.
And we're going to be doing a review of perhaps on a Brini Lee's video. Brini Lee said that men are intimidated by we know the story, right? Men are intimidated by strong women, and
Oh my
oh my
goodness.
God, oh God.
I have to tell you the thing. See, the thing about that is, how is it possible? I mean, it's obviously willful ignorance. Okay, it has been said over and over and over. No, men are not intimidated by you. They just don't want to deal with you.
Exactly.
You
It's
know. I mean,
let, let me
what?
even get,
How
yeah.
else can it be said? I
Let me
mean,
get, let me also let me even grant them. Let me grant the Brini Lees of the world, because number one, the reason why you go oh my God and I go oh my God is because we see through it, and it's almost like a sugar honey iced tea, let's not cuss, being smeared on your face. In other words, it's a disgust response that I have to that, and that you just have to it, because it's just disgusting, the person saying it, and when that whole mentality. We know exactly what's going on with this kind of crappy notion, right? No pun intended. But let's just say, for example, that we grant you that I don't want to get my arms bitten off by a pit bull, right? Is it not smart of me not to want to get my arms bitten off by a pit bull? Right? If I see a pit bull and I go across the street, and then the people say, you're intimidated by me. Maybe I'll just graduate and be like, okay, yes, fine. you know? Maybe I'll just go ahead and say, okay, yes, I am intimidated by you, just so I don't have to deal with your. But in reality, it's not even that you're a pit bull. You're just an annoying person. You don't have accountability and all that kind of stupid stuff that's going on. And the fact that you say things like that means that there's no introspection with you at all. To think that if you're putting people off, and all you got, all your comeback is, oh, these people are just intimidated by me. I don't even know. And I'm that arrogant bastard, right? That likes to talk about things like, no, Ike is going to be duped. Stay on his lane, and don't worry about Ike talking about unity and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm the kind of person that you would expect to be like, ha ha ha. But no, I understand that. I mean, I don't even. When it comes to social stuff, communication, and all these kinds of things, if you're putting people off, the least mature thing you could do is to be saying it's everybody else's fault, number one. And then you take it even further by saying that it's because you're so high up there, right? Not only are they saying it's everybody else's fault, they're saying, well, it's their fault because I'm so high up and they cannot match my level. What a piece of shit you are. I couldn't help myself. I just had to cuss. You're a piece of shit, bitch. Piece of shit, bitch. Yes, I said it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're out.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain, the face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. Hey, I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.